The Tales of 1001 Nights, Night-2. The Story of the Ifrit and the Merchant, Part 2. Our tale, as we left it at the end of the first night, was at the point where the merchant, unaware that the cow he had sacrificed was actually his concubine and the mother of his child, transformed by his vindictive wife's spell, had asked the shepherd to prepare a calf for sacrifice. Unbeknownst to him, the calf was his own lost child, transformed into a calf by his treacherous wife's dark magic. And now, the continuation of the story. As the hours passed, the shepherd finally returned with a young calf, whose large, sorrowful eyes seemed to hold a deep sadness. The merchant's heart, still heavy with the memory of the cow's lowing, was stirred by the calf's gentle demeanour. The wretched calf, upon seeing the knife in the merchant's hand, broke free from the shepherd's grasp and threw itself at the merchant's feet, whimpering and pleading, rolling in the dust as if imploring for mercy. The merchant, struck by the calf's behaviour, was reminded of the lowing of the cow that had been sacrificed by the shepherd. Something within him stirred, and he suddenly declared,
"Enough! I renounce the sacrifice of this calf. We shall distribute among the people whatever remains of the cow."
The merchant's words were laced with a newfound compassion, as if the calf's desperate actions had awakened a deep sense of empathy within him. However, his cunning and vindictive wife, aware of the true circumstances, retorted angrily,
"We must sacrifice this calf at once and distribute its meat among the people. Where will you find another calf of this size? If you cannot bring yourself to do it, tell the shepherd to perform the task."
Her voice was venomous, and her eyes seemed to burn with an inner fire, as if driven by a malevolent force. But the merchant, firm in his decision, cried out,
"My word is final. This calf shall not be sacrificed."
His voice echoed through the courtyard, a declaration of his newfound resolve. He then requested the shepherd to return the calf to the herd. The shepherd, though perplexed by the merchant's change of heart, obeyed and led the calf away. The merchant's treacherous wife, enraged, stormed into the house, her face twisted in a scowl. The shepherd departed with the wretched calf, and the merchant distributed the remains of the poor cow among the people. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, he returned home, weighed down by sorrow. As night wore on, the merchant had barely fallen asleep when a loud and insistent knocking at the door roused him from his slumber. Alarmed and filled with trepidation, he hastened to the door and, upon opening it, found the shepherd's worried and agitated face. The shepherd's eyes were red-rimmed and his brow was furrowed with concern. The shepherd, interrupting the merchant's query, spoke in a hushed tone.
"We must make haste to my house. I will explain everything on the way. There is no time to lose."
The merchant, seized by fear and anxiety, accompanied the shepherd to his abode, the darkness of the night seeming to press in around them. As they journeyed, the shepherd began to recount.
"I have a young daughter who, from a tender age, has been trained in the art of sorcery by benevolent magicians. She possesses a deep understanding of the mystical arts and has a heart full of kindness. When I returned with the calf, as the hour was late, I decided to take it to my house and return it to the herd at dawn. As we entered the courtyard, my daughter, watching from the window, cried out, 'Why did you not warn me that you were bringing a stranger home, so that I might prepare more food?' Her voice was like a gentle breeze on a summer's day, but it carried a weight of concern that was palpable. I looked around, bewildered, and saw no one but myself and the calf. I asked my daughter, 'Whom are you speaking of? There is no one here but me.' She continued, 'This calf is the son of the man who was to sacrifice it today, transformed by his wife's spell.' Her words were like a cold wind, sending shivers down my spine. Recalling that my daughter is knowledgeable in the dark arts and does not speak idly, I hastened to your house to inform you of this revelation.
The shepherd's words were laced with a sense of urgency, and the merchant's heart pounded in his chest as he listened. Upon arriving at the shepherd's house, the merchant rushed to the calf, embracing it and weeping, caressing it with tender affection. The calf nuzzled his chest, and the merchant felt a deep sense of connection to this creature, who was, in truth, his own son. He then requested the shepherd to summon his daughter, that she might reveal all she knew. The shepherd, with a nod, called out to his daughter, and she appeared in the courtyard, her eyes shining with a soft, ethereal light. She gazed intently into the calf's eyes for a moment, and then addressed the merchant.
2 days after you departed on your journey, your first wife, using dark magic, transformed your son and his mother into a calf and a cow and sold them to the herder. The cow you sacrificed yesterday was your concubine and the mother of your child.
Her words were like a dagger to the merchant's heart, and he felt a wave of grief wash over him. The merchant, overcome with emotion, asked the shepherd's daughter,
Can you undo this spell and restore my child to his true form?
His voice was trembling, and his eyes were filled with tears. The young girl replied with a smile,
Fortunately, I know the way to break this curse, but I have a condition that you must fulfill.
Her smile was like a ray of sunshine illuminating the darkness. The merchant, without hesitation, responded,
I accept any condition, unheard. Speak it and restore my son to me.
His words were a heartfelt plea, driven by a father's love. The young girl replied,
After I have broken the spell and returned your son to you, you must accept me as your bride, that I may marry your son.
Her words were like a gentle rain, soothing the merchant's parched heart. The merchant, without delay, exclaimed,
Who could be a better bride for me than you? Come and undo the spell.
His words were a declaration of his willingness to accept her condition, and the young girl smiled, her eyes shining with a deep understanding. The merchant, upon hearing the shepherd's daughter's words, agreed to her condition. She then entered the house and returned with a clay jug and bowl. She poured water from the jug into the bowl and placed it before the calf, circling around it several times. She then rotated the bowl around her head multiple times, whispering incantations under her breath, her eyes rolling back in her head until only the whites were visible. Finally, she circled the bowl around the calf's head 3 times and, with a loud cry, splashed the water onto its face. Instantly, a thick mist enveloped the calf, and when it cleared, the merchant's son stood before them, restored to his true form. Overjoyed, the merchant embraced his son, tears of happiness streaming down his face. He begged his son to recount all that had befallen him and his mother. After the young man finished his tale, the merchant rose to leave with his son, intent on returning home. However, the shepherd's daughter stayed their departure, inquiring about their haste. The merchant explained that he aimed to punish his wicked wife for her misdeeds, and then prepare for the wedding celebration between his son and the shepherd's daughter. The young girl, with a thoughtful expression, cautioned,
Your wife is a cunning and dangerous sorceress. I fear that if she sees you and your son together, she may cast a dark spell that could harm you both, and I might be unable to counter it. If you agree, I can cast a spell to transform her into an animal, rendering her powerless.
The merchant, without hesitation, accepted her proposal. The shepherd's daughter closed her eyes, began to whisper incantations, and after a few moments opened them again. Your wife is now a deer, harmless to anyone, she announced.
I used the strongest spells, irreversible and unbreakable. You and your son are now safe.
Upon the merchant's return home with his son, they discovered that the shepherd's daughter had indeed transformed his wife into a deer. The next morning, the merchant arranged for his son's wedding to the shepherd's daughter, gifting them all his wealth. He then attached a chain around the deer's neck and departed into the wilderness, never to return to that city again. As the old man finished his tale, he turned to the Ifrit and said,
"This is my story, and this chained deer is the one who wronged me. She understands our words, but cannot respond or act. I drag her behind me everywhere, ensuring she faces the consequences of her deeds."
The Ifrit, moved by the tale and the cruelty of the merchant's wife, declared,
"Your story has amazed me, and I will pardon 1/3 of this man's blood, as per our agreement. However, I still intend to take his life in revenge for my son's death."
Just then, a second old man, accompanied by 2 black dogs, stood up and approached the Ifrit.
Noble Ifrit, my story and that of these 2 black dogs is a tale worth hearing and a lesson to be learned. If you permit, I will recount my story, and if you find it pleasing, perhaps you will pardon another 1/3 of this man's blood.
The Ifrit, after a moment's contemplation, nodded, and the second old man began his tale.
O Ifrit, these 2 dogs are, in truth, my younger brothers, transformed by fate. Our father was a respected merchant in the market, dealing in various goods and known for his fairness. He had a particular fondness for perfumes, fragrances, and silk fabrics, and towards the end of his life focused solely on trading these commodities. People came from far and wide to purchase from him due to his integrity.
As the old man continued his tale, he recounted how his father had divided his wealth among his 3 sons and instructed them on how to manage the family business. The old man, as the eldest, was tasked with maintaining the shop, while his brothers were free to pursue other ventures with their share of the inheritance. However, his brothers, driven by youth and inexperience, insisted on selling the shop and dividing the proceeds. The old man, determined to honour his father's wishes, refused, and eventually paid them a substantial sum to relinquish their claims. The old man's tale continued, recounting how he rebuilt the business, expanded it, and prospered. Meanwhile, he kept track of his brothers' lives, wondering how they fared. One day, his youngest brother, impoverished and worn, came to him seeking help. The old man welcomed him, clothed him in fine attire, and employed him in his shop. Together, they worked tirelessly, and their business flourished, attracting customers from far and wide. However, their success was soon marred by news that the old man's other brother had been arrested for theft and was to be punished by having his hand cut off. The old man, determined to save his brother, set out immediately, leaving his youngest brother in charge of the shop. As the night wore on and Scheherazade heard the sound of Shahbaz's snores, she knew that she had survived another night and must prepare to continue her tale on the 3rd night. To be continued on the 3rd night. Farewell.